Ready. Awesome.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stacy.
And I'm her daughter, Mickey.
And welcome to KiddieNomics! Welcome, everybody, to another fun-filled edition of Kids Financial Literacy Friday with KiddieNomics. We are uber excited to have you guys on today, because today we have like a super awesome guest. I really enjoyed talking with her. She is a wealth full of knowledge. And so we have Miss Andrea Peart that's going to be talking to us about how to buy your perfect home.
Yeah.
So we are super excited to have you on, Miss Andrea. But before we get started with you, I got to dial it back, and I'm going to share my screen. And then we will get started on KiddieNomics. All right, everybody. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. First, we'd like to thank all of the new kiddies that have registered today for KiddieNomics. It has been like a flurry of signups for KiddieNomics this week, so that is absolutely amazing. And of course, we'd like to thank all of the returning kiddies that have been with us for KiddieNomics week after week. Every Friday, we're here from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. So thank you, all of the returning kiddies that have joined us every single week. So what is KiddieNomics about, right? Like, why are you guys here? KiddieNomics will help kids ages 8+ to develop a healthy relationship towards financial literacy, helping to start kids off on the right path to have a successful financial future. That's what we want for you. That's what I want for you. That's what she wants for me. That's what we want for every kiddie around the globe, to have an uber successful financial future. And with financial literacy, sky's the limit, right? Mm-hmm. So before we get into what Miss Andrea is going to be talking to us today, if you have any new kiddies in our chat box today, just let the kiddies know that you're new, and they'll welcome you in the chat box. So talking about the chat box, we cannot see or hear any of you kiddies. So if you do want to communicate with us, which we are really active on KiddieNomics in our KiddieNomics community, you'll see the kids are already typing away in the chat box. So feel free to always jump in. We have a really awesome community here at KiddieNomics. So we can't see or hear you. So if you do want to communicate, you do have to type your answers and your questions in the chat box that's either up above, to the side, or down below. My chat box is up above, so I don't know necessarily where yours is, but that's how we communicate here in KiddieNomics. Also, to remind everybody, we do record every single KiddieNomics webinar, and so it will be posted on our KiddieNomics YouTube channel so that you can watch this webinar back, and of course, all of our other KiddieNomics webinars that we've had for a long time now. So if you want to get caught up, let's say, on all of our past webinars, check out our KiddieNomics YouTube channel. This video will be posted by 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight, so you'll be able to watch it back then. So one other housekeeping item, we, like I said, we have an awesome KiddieNomics community here, and we like to keep it a very safe community. So we always say, please, no ages, no
names,
well, we see your name, but the name that you were registered with, right? Yeah. So no email addresses, no phone numbers, no ages, none of that do I want to see in the chat box, because we want to keep your personal information private, right? We had a KiddieNomics webinar with Miss Hadriana Leo, and we talked about online money smarts, where we're talking about your privacy online and trying to keep your information private, right? So that's what we like to maintain here on KiddieNomics. All right, I think the kids are doing some roll calls here. So before I get to Miss Andrea, I'm going to do roll call. All right, so let's put in the chat box and let me know what country you are joining us from today.
Wow.
So let me see. Canada, Rosemary. Leah, Canada. Salem, Canada. Heather, Canada. Brielle, Canada. Canada's repping. Elias, Canada. Sandra.
I'm from
Ibby, you're from Kepler.
England, Paris.
Is that Micah? Micah's usually from England. Hi,
Yes,
Micah.
yeah.
Samuel's from Paris. That's awesome. Bonjour. Nia, Canada. Canada's repping today. Alan, Canada. Hi, Micah.
Ariana, Canada.
Oh,
Canada,
yeah.
TikTok.
Canada, TikTok.
TikTok.
Nice. Italy, Samuel, you're from, no, Samuel, because you just put, was that you, Samuel?
Italy.
Okay, well, if you are from Italy, thank you for joining us today. Maddie is from Toronto. Yay.
Kemba, I see Kemba. Auntie Kemba's on.
Nice. We have Isaiah from the USA. Hi, Isaiah.
Malaysia.
Let's see. Elias says, bien, good. Wee. All right, so that was a good roll call. Thank you, everybody, for participating. All right, so let's get to our awesome speaker today. I welcome Miss Andrea Peart. She's a realtor, investor, and a teacher. So her experience is diverse from teaching and fostering little ones to financial services to investing in residential and commercial real estate. She owns 2 corporations, and she's also the partner and co-owner of a 3rd business with her sister-in-law that is dedicated to helping others build wealth through real estate. So we give a big KiddieNomics welcome, round of applause. Make sure all you kiddies are doing our round of applause, okay? Our round of applause to Miss Andrea Peart. Thank you, Miss Andrea, for joining us today. I'm sharing my screen. There you are.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. I am super excited to be here. And thank you, Stacy and Micah, for having me. I think this is the best way for children to begin to develop those skills and now that, understanding of financial literacy so that they can be truly successful, which is exactly what we want them to be.
Yes, for sure.
Yes. So, and thank you for that welcome and the roll call. Amazing. Canada is strong today, along with it's really nice to see other places like Italy, England, Eurasia. I saw there's quite a few nice places out there. Awesome. KiddieNomics has got a pretty wide reach.
Yeah, we've had kids join us from Germany. Jupiter, yes. They like to do space sometimes, but we do Germany, Australia, parts of Africa, which is phenomenal, parts of the Caribbean. So we love our reach for KiddieNomics, and just knowing that it doesn't matter where you live, where you're from, it doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have, financial literacy is always important.
It's essential. Agreed. It's a foundation for everyone. Everyone. So that's awesome. Are we ready to begin then? Shall I share my screen?
Hi, Joshua from Jamaica. Yay.
Awesome. I think I remember Joshua from one of the first ones that I came on to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's been on before.
Yes, he's been on many times with KiddieNomics.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen then, Stacy, to begin.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, dear. And am I even ready? So this is the part where I'm probably not the best at. So here, let me just find where I put it. Okay. And I think I moved it. Okay. Sorry, that took me a little bit. I thought I had it all set and ready to go. But as I said, thank you very much for having me. I'm so excited. I am totally passionate about building wealth. And I think to build wealth, you need to have knowledge. And to begin with financial knowledge, it's definitely, like we said, it doesn't matter where you are and who you are. Everybody needs to have it. And so for today, we're going to focus on buying your perfect property, because as young as you are, like you, when I was young, I always thought of what I wanted to own and where I wanted to live. And so to start to prepare yourself and understand what it is that you need to do to be able to buy, it's very important. So as Stacy said, one of the corporations or companies that I formed is with my sister-in-law, Kemba, and we've titled it Keen. It's actually our names combined, the first couple initials of our names combined is how we arrived at Keen. And our focus is, making sure that not just can you build wealth, but that you understand what it is that you have to do to build wealth. So how to prepare and plan. So we use the tool of real estate, because real estate is something that we know well and have found that just about anyone can build wealth, no matter where you start with, no matter how little money or how much money you have, as long as you're focused and you're willing to save and set aside, you can eventually amass quite a bit of money through real estate. And so today we're going to look at how you can do that. And like Stacey, I think you'll keep me informed of who has questions, right? You'll help in the chat.
Absolutely. So if you see me raise my hand, that's me just asking a question from one of the little kitties.
Okay.
They have. So don't worry, I monitor the chat.
Okay, awesome. Because I think that it's very important that they ask questions, and I do my very best to help answer. So Stacey's told you a little bit about me already. But I like to focus on things that, like, I feel that outside of all the things that I've accomplished, I feel I've always been very ambitious, always wanted to work hard and be successful at anything I did. And success came in many forms, just feeling like I've done a really good job raising my kids, running my household. So just being very successful at everything that I sort of put my hands into. And so I have, I'm very creative, I'm very friendly and outgoing. And so I've always worked with people and kids. So Stacey, I don't know if you know that, but I come from teaching as my former background. I was a full-time teacher for many years. And so that's sort of what I went to university for. I got my Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Education in my Ontario College of Teachers. So I know this age group of children. I've taught grade 3, I've taught grade 8, grade 5, I've sort of been all over. I think I even dabbled a little in kindergarten. So definitely, working with people has always been my goal, and pretty much everything I've done is just that. I am a mom. I have 3 girls. So like Stacey, I have daughters. I'm a wife. I've been an investor for many years. And I would say that I'll always be a teacher. I don't full-time teach anymore, but I'll always be a teacher, because that is who I am, right? And so today I'm here to be your teacher for financial literacy and buying your first property. The rest of it, you've already shared, Stacey. So I think that we can move on, and hopefully I can help you understand how important it is to know what it is that you have to do to buy. So some of the things that we'll cover today is some words, because there's a lot, anytime you're learning something new, there's always a lot of words, concepts, and new things that it's almost like learning a new language, right? You're not familiar with it. It sounds foreign and maybe even impossible to learn, but it's not. And that's why Stacey's bringing financial literacy to you, so that it won't be foreign, because once you experience it enough times as you're younger, it becomes a part of who you are. So today we're going to talk about how to buy your perfect property, how much homes and properties in general cost, and that will vary according to where you are in the world. But we're here in Canada, in the Toronto area, that's the numbers that I'll look at today. The steps to buying your perfect property, and then some tips, and we'll sort of wrap up with what did you learn and how you can maybe use some of the systems that are at play if you are here in Canada to buy into real estate and buy your first home. And then we'll close and of course do our thank yous. So let's begin. So before we start, because I know you are very knowledgeable, I've been here for about a month at KiddieNomics, and I have been to a lot of the sessions, and you've learned a lot of words already. So I don't want to impose all these words thinking that you don't know. I think that some of you already have some idea of some of these words. And so if you do, or if you're familiar with them or you know them, please, type in the chat box and let us know. But these are all words that are related to your purchase when you're buying your first property, such as an appraisal, credit score, commercial, and not a commercial as in, in between the television shows, where you have a break. It's a commercial property, and it's the type of property where it usually relates to stores, offices. So maybe if you go to a mall is a commercial property. Yes, Miss Stacy, a question.
So Samuel says he's new, and so he only knows some. So each KiddieNomics webinar is siloed in its own webinar, like, so we don't start from scratch anywhere. So
Yes.
absolutely, we'll go through like each. I'm sure Miss Andrea will
Yes.
answer each one of the definitions for each word for you guys, and you guys can chime in if you guys know them or not, right?
Yeah, so here are the definitions for the words, because I made sure that I know you'll know some of them, but here they are, so that if you're not familiar with them, you can definitely get some ideas here. So for example, an appraisal. When you are buying a property, it's very, very important to understand what we mean by an appraisal. Because if you're buying the property and you've never seen it before, you don't know it, or you maybe don't even know the area, getting an expert to determine the value of that property will help you decide how much you want to spend on buying that property, and to make sure that you're not spending more than the property would be worth. So the appraisal is a very important number. Also, you need to understand your credit score. And I'm not sure if I'm trying to think, in the ones that I've seen before, I don't recall you speaking of credit. Yes. Yes, Miss Stacy?
We did credit again the end of February, but some of the kids don't understand what an appraisal is.
Okay, so an appraisal. So, it would be someone that would go out to the property, and they would look at every part of the property, the roof, all parts of the inside, outside, and they would come to a number, a figure, like a dollar figure of what that property is. So the person listing it for sale that you want to buy it from might say it's worth 200,000. But the appraiser might go out and say, after careful examination of looking at all the different types of materials that this home is constructed of, they may determine that the value is actually 225,000. So they might appraise it at slightly higher. And so if you're paying 200 for it, already you bought value in it. So the appraisal is to help assess how much it's truly worth, whether it's worth that 200, is it greater or less than that value. Does that help?
Let's see. I think so. Does everybody now understand what an appraisal is? So right now we're just going through word definitions.
Yeah, and so then your credit is it's a score, or like we need to understand when we're going to ask to borrow money or to get approved for a mortgage, we need to know what our score is, because the company, that the bank or the financial institution that would offer you money to lend you for that purchase, they would want to know what your score is. So like how trustworthy you are to borrow. So they want to see what history you have, if your history of borrowing has been good. So when you borrowed before from someone, did you pay them back, or were you late? And so your credit score is a combination of a number of things that you've been doing for a while, using credit, whether you're borrowing using a credit card, or whether you bought a car and you paid for some of it with credit. That all helps determine what your score is. And that score is very important, because the better your score, the more a financial company or a bank will want to loan and lend you money to buy a property. Miss Stacy?
Awesome. So we do have two questions, but one from Jaden. So he wants to know, so really, what is investing? So when you put money in a bank and if you do nothing with it, does it make more money or not? Jaden wants to know. And then Joshua wants to know, does everyone need credit?
Yes. Yes, Joshua. Everyone needs credit once you become of age, like as an adult. So once you're 18 years of age and older, you need to have credit in order to be able to do a lot of the things that you want. If you want to buy a car, or if you want to own a cell phone, or if you want to have a home, you need credit. prior to 18, you may not need it as much. Definitely some teenagers may need to have good credit as well, or at least use the credit of their parents to help them acquire some of the things that they want. And investment in a bank, I have never believed that money makes, your money in a bank can be invested and earn. So if I'm answering your question, it's Jaden. Jaden said, how do you earn money, or how does it work? So money in a bank, unless you've talked to the bank of moving it out of your bank account and putting it into an investment, such as a mutual fund or a tax. I think you've talked about RESPs before, or a tax-free savings account. If you don't have those invested, then they don't earn money. They just sit there, just like money might sit in a savings account or a checking account. So to invest, Jaden, this is a good way to put your money to work. Once you've saved it for quite a while, it's good to invest in a home. So do we understand what we mean by real estate? So it's buildings, properties that you may acquire, or some of us live in them, some of us shop at them, some of us have our offices there. So that's what we mean by real estate. Rental income, so making sure that when you're buying a property and you've owned it and you say rent it out, you may get money from it. So the rent, the money that someone pays you to have to use your property, either for office or to live, for work, that's how you earn rental income. And Jaden, that's a really good way to invest your money. You can put your money into real estate, and then you can generate income. So instead of your money just sitting there not earning, you can put it to work so that it can pay you. Right? That money can work harder for you than you work for it. And that's really what home ownership is. So outside of the appraisal, you might do an inspection. The inspection, now the appraisal looks at the value of the property. The inspection looks at, is there anything broken? Is there anything that needs to be fixed? Is the roof going to need fixing soon, or any part of the house? And so you want to make sure that before you buy, you're having that inspector go out to determine, because the inspection and the appraisal will help you determine the value or how much you're willing to pay for that property. So Miss Stacy, do you have another question? Because I thought I saw your hand. Yes.
Yeah, the kids are a little still confused. So I'm not sure if they're confused about the topic or the definitions. So
okay, which one?
Clear it up, because they're still saying that they are very confused. So this one today is not about necessarily investing.
No.
Today we're talking about real estate.
Well, it's one type of investment, but mostly the most important investment is the one that you buy for you. So we're going to talk about buying a home for you as an investment, not so much investments and where you can invest your money.
Yes. And so, Lisa, you say you're a little confused. So just let me know exactly where you're confused about. Is it the definitions? Are you guys getting lost in the definitions? Just let me know. And also, I see 2 hands raised. So you can raise your hand, which is awesome, but you got to type your questions in the chat box so I know what it is your questions are. So put the questions in the chat box for me, and then Miss Andrea is going to try and clarify. So Lisa's saying that she's still a little bit confused on some of the definitions. So maybe we should move forward, and then we'll come back to some of the definitions once they understand the topic a little bit.
The topic, yes. So because there's a lot of words, so let's make sure we try and use some of those definitions in our topic here. So for example, like we talked about, this is not it is an investment, but we're not talking about investments and where you can put your money. This is you buying a place someday that is for you and maybe your family that you may have, right? Or even you might buy it for you to have it work and generate money, but it's not investment types. So I think I came on where she talked about real estate investments, and you talked about REITs and land development and stuff. Those are different forms of investments as well. So let's go back to buying your property. If you want to buy a home someday and you want to qualify for it, you're going to need a few things in place to buy that perfect property. You're going to need credit, And so it's more important that you understand these terms, because credit is, remember that score, that way that a company, a bank or a financial institution, they're going to look to see what's your score. Like, is your score really low or really high? Because if your score is low, it means that you haven't been very good at paying when you borrowed money. Where if you have a really high score, it means that you've actually been very good at paying your creditors and the people that you borrow money from. So very important lesson to learn. Like when we borrow, we want to make sure that we get it back to that person. And in this case here, if you borrow from a bank and or a credit card company or a company that loans you money, they expect you to pay it back. And the better you are at paying it back, the higher your score will be. And that score, along with money that you have that you've maybe saved, because to buy your perfect property, you have to have some money saved and set aside. So, the more money you have, the bigger you can buy a property, or the more you can put into that property, because it doesn't even have to be a bigger property. It's just that you now have more to put in, which means the payment that you make will be smaller. So, credit is important, capital is important, and the income that you earn. So today, you're thinking, probably in the next few years and over the next decade or so, as you build yourself, you're thinking, what do I want to be, in terms of work, or what kind of business do I want to develop and generate income? And that income source that you build will be able to help you buy your perfect property as well. So the more you earn, the more that you will be able to be approved for buying a home that you can either live in or rent out and generate income. So are we getting a little bit more clear on what it is this topic is today, buying your home, your first home? Yes, Miss Stacy?
Yes, I think the kids are saying yes in the chat, which is awesome. Thanks, Madeline. Thanks, Brielle. Thanks, Jaden. All right, but they did have a question. Joshua would like to know, what
Yes.
if something breaks in the house? Will it cost you money, I guess, to fix it? Who's responsible?
Good questions. Yes. Well, this is why it's so important to have the inspection that I spoke of before, because before you buy, you want to know sort of what could happen or go wrong. And I agree, if something is broken and you own it, it's yours to fix, right? It's so part of generating income and having income is to make sure that the more income you have, the more you're going to be able to fix those challenges that come your way. But you don't want to buy the home with those things that are not working. You want to make sure that the inspector that you sent out has looked to see if there are any areas where the seller should fix before you move in. But after you move in and it's yours, the fix is on you, and it can be costly. And so saving and setting aside money is very important. Any other questions, Miss Stacy, before we move on?
Ngozi would like to know if we can go back to the last slide. I think they're still writing down definitions.
Awesome. Yes.
I always say take notes on KiddieNomics.
No, very important.
Jaden would like to know, what's the difference between a mortgage and rent?
Very good question. So the mortgage means that you owe money to the bank, but typically when you owe money to the bank, it means that that house is yours, right? You're in ownership mode. You're working towards paying the bank back what you borrowed from them, so that the house and the value of it will eventually be all yours. When you pay rent, right? So the mortgage you pay to the bank, and you're paying them because they've loaned you some money. When you pay rent, you're paying that to the person who owns it, and you're paying it to compensate for the cost that they incur to have that, and then they can now pay the bank. So mortgage is you working towards owning the house free, all in your name and all to you, where rent is it's like you're borrowing that property during the time that you are living there, and you pay the owner that amount each month to compensate for renting their place or staying in that house.
Awesome. Okay. So Karen says, I'll get
yes, Micah has a question. Or there's another question?
Yeah, so I'll get to Mickey's question right after. So
Okay.
Karen says she had the same question because she was a little bit confused in Monopoly. We love Monopoly, so congrats on playing that game. We love
Excellent
Monopoly.
game.
That's a great game to play. So hopefully, did that help you there, Karen, with that explanation from Miss Andrea? And then Mickey has a question.
Mickey has a question.
When you rent in a house, is there like a limit how long you can rent the house?
If you're renting a house, is there a limit to how long you can rent the house for?
No, there is no limit. It's up to you, the person who's renting, how long you want to stay. Now, it could expire if the owner decides to sell the property. But no, as long as you're there and you wish to stay on, you can stay on. Okay.
Awesome. Joshua would like to know, he doesn't fully understand the income subject. Are you talking about the income that you need to buy, the income definition there, Joshua?
Yeah, so in order to have to be able to buy a house or buy a property, you need income. So if you're not working and you're not you don't have a business or a source of money every month and every year, you can't you won't be able to be approved to get a mortgage. If you have enough money, you can buy the house cash. Yes, go right ahead. But most people need to borrow, and so that's why income is important.
Awesome. One last question before we get to your next slide. Rosemary would like to know, do you have to pay rent if you own the house?
No, you're paying, it's not called rent when you own it. It's called a mortgage. And so that's what I was trying to explain, the difference between a mortgage and a rent. So you're paying to the bank and it's referred to as a mortgage payment. When you are renting the property, you pay to the owner, the landlord, rent every month, and that's different. So a mortgage is your way to pay the bank back, and the rent is how the tenant, the person who's living in your property, pays you, the owner.
Okay, perfect.
I hope that helps. I know it's a lot of new terms, but good questions.
They are. I do have one from Sanaya and Gabriel. The words are a little bit confusing for them. So if we can break them down more simply as we go along, I think that would help them. But the next slide is awesome because that's a fun game for the kids.
Yeah, let's try a little bit of, I always love puzzles and word searches. So this is a bit of, I've given you the words to why you would want to own a home, some reasons why to own, but they're scrambled. I've mixed them all up because I thought you would love to play along with me. And so the different pictures, like this picture over here, shows that those are little homes or little houses. And if you could unscramble the words, you might see, I'll give you this first one.
No, don't give it to them. Let them put it into the chat. So
type it
in. Know in the chat, what is that word? I'll use my Jeopardy music.
Yeah, let's see if they can, and try to get some of the others as well, because there's about 7 of them that I have here, and I thought it would be fun. They're all reasons why owning a home would be good. So did we get any answers to that, Ms. Stacy?
Yeah, so Kay Hines says shelter, Ibby says shelter, Michelle says shelter, Jaden says shelter, Kay Hines, I think, went ahead and went to ownership.
Whoa. Good stuff.
Lisa says shelter. Yep, I think most of the kids got shelter.
Excellent. Yay. Smart cookie. They're all smart.
Aren't
and
they?
So good. And what about this one down here? Because on the next slide, I'll show all of them. But what is this one here?
What is that one down there?
I show a jar with money.
Yeah. Heather says wealth. Elias put in all the answers, which is awesome. Samuel says wealth. Tracy says wealth. Isaiah says wealth. Michelle says wealth. Yep. I think got wealth.
Got it. How about this one? Maybe those ones are too easy. How about this one down here with it's a, people connecting their hands. It's a bigger word, but it's an excellent reason why you want to build and buy your first home. And if we don't see any answers, Miss Stacy, let me know so I can give them a clue.
Oh no, they already got it.
Oh,
No.
okay. Oh, they're just too smart. They're
No,
just
they
too smart
are.
for us.
Tim Blake says legacy. Michelle, legacy. Brielle, legacy. Tracy, legacy. Enola says legacy. Alan, legacy. I love seeing all these fantastic new names. Madeline, legacy. Naza, legacy. Joshua. Oh, Joshua got ownership. Awesome. Tammy, legacy. Ooh,
Okay.
these kids are so smart. Like,
They're so smart.
they're
So let's reveal them all on the next page. I think that those were some of the more tough ones. I don't know if anyone got this one up here, but that it's I didn't think it was hard as some of the others. So
yeah, I know they got it. They got home. They said home and freedom. They're all putting it in. Home, freedom. Let me see. Live. Yep, they got live.
So there they are, all unscrambled. So these are all reasons why you want to buy your first and perfect property. It doesn't make sense if you don't try to aim to do that, because there's so many reasons. You need somewhere to live and a shelter over your head. You might want to, it definitely gives you freedom and builds a legacy if you want to be able to pass it on to your children or to members of your family. Ownership means more money, more income, because some of you are still not getting that concept of income, but income is what you earn when you have the business or when you have a job or when you have investments. Because Jaden, you've asked me about investments, and buying a home is one form of an investment and one way to build wealth. It also, your home will appreciate, meaning that you buy it maybe at 100,000, but over time, the longer you own it, the more it gets, the value of it grows. And so then it goes from 100,000 to maybe 200,000 in 10 years to in 20 years being worth 300, 400, 500,000. So it's building wealth for you and possibly, giving you the opportunity to have freedoms like traveling or buying other assets that you may want to have for your family. The property is also sellable. Some of the expenses and the things that you do with your property. So someone asked, what if something breaks? Who fixes it? Well, you do. But if you own that and you're renting it out, those are considered expenses that can reduce your taxes. And I know you've talked about taxes before. So it's important to pay taxes, but it's also important to find ways to reduce the taxes that you pay so that you can keep more of what you are earning for you and your family and build more wealth for yourself. And so those are some reasons why you want to own and buy real estate. Let's move on so that I can show you how real estate looks, especially here in Canada. So I know that you've probably thought of owning, like I remember when I was younger, I'm still young, but when I was a little younger, I always wanted to own this big house, right? That's just how I thought, I would want to have a big mansion. I realized eventually I'd only want a big mansion if I could have a cleaner and I could have all these other things. But they're very expensive. So having a mansion or owning a big home is expensive, because look at our prices here in the Canada. You can have a condo that you would have to spend about 400,000 to buy. From a condo to single detached homes. So a home that stands alone is oftentimes, and this is fairly conservative, because if you're in Toronto, it's more than this, but usually homes are around 750,000 and more, where you can, for a little bit more, you might be able to, if you're not in Toronto area, you're buying maybe an apartment building. They don't start typically much less than 1 million, 1.2 million. So the price of properties change in value depending on the size of them and where they're located. So in Toronto, they tend to be very expensive. In other parts of Canada, you can probably buy a property for less than 200,000, and maybe other parts of the world. Yes, Miss Stacy.
I like Madeline's statement. She says, apartments are that much.
Yes, they are. So Miss Stacy, I apologize. Let's clarify. So Madeline, we're buying the whole building, not just one unit. It's the whole building. Okay. So if you're having the whole building and it has like 6 apartments in it, that's what you might pay $1.2 million. Okay. So you can live in one and rent out all the others. Yes, Miss Stacy.
Uh, Leith and Blake would like to know, sorry, your question, why are condos cheaper?
That's a good point. So the smaller the property, the less usually it costs to buy it. And of course, in our location here, where we are in the Toronto area, it tends to be, 400,000 can buy a condo. But if you go to somewhere like New York City or somewhere else, or even in Toronto, to be honest, you can spend easily $1 million. So the price differs based on size. So the smaller the property, the less cost. The bigger the property, the more cost, right? But that change, location can change the price as well. So those are good points to make.
Um,
Oh,
Kelsey would like to know, what are condos? Like, what's the definition of a condo?
yeah. So a condo, if you're looking at the first picture here that I have, it's like a apartment building with lots of units in it. So you'll have lots of apartments within it, and so we often refer to them as condos when they come with, maybe they have different amenities, a variety of amenities, like maybe a pool, or they have a movie room. And so, meaning not in the condo, but in your unit, but in the main floor, they have a number of other amenities that comes with your apartment building or condo that you can use. So if you don't refer to that term in your part of the world, it's possible that some places don't have or use condos or refer to them as condos. But here in Toronto, a condominium is a collective of people living all in one building or all in one area. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so we have another question from Nikki. Nikki wants to know, sometimes do you have to rent before you buy? Do people rent before they buy?
You don't have to, but I think that most people do tend to rent before they buy, but it's not required. You can go right into buying. And that's why we're teaching you as early as you and as young as you are, we're teaching you what you need to know now, so that as young as 18 or 19, when you're an adult, you can buy without having to rent. You can leave mom and dad and buy your first property. So some of the steps to buying. So very important. You may choose to rent first only because you don't have your savings set aside. But if you start working and doing and learning putting into action some of the things that you've been learning at KiddieNomics, then you might actually save and have a large enough amount of money to buy your first property without having to rent. And that would be your goal, I think, to save. And so you've probably already started saving and setting aside, maybe you get Christmas money, birthday money, or you have a part-time job. Because as young as I was, at 12 years old, I started babysitting and finding ways to earn money before I could get a job from another outside company. And so you then need to get approved. So you need to go and get a bank or a financial company to say, will they offer you some money to buy that property? Because remember, we just showed you 400,000 is a lot of money to save. So you might want to save some and then borrow the rest. And the bank will approve you with your credit, your income, and capital. They'll approve you. If you have all of those 3 things, they will give you the money to buy that property. And now you can start your search. You can go out, start looking for what it is that you think is perfect for you and would fit your needs. If you're just starting out, you might start out with a condominium or an apartment building. If you maybe are starting a little later on, when you have kids and a family, you might want to buy a townhouse or a house where you have a bit more room. So it all depends on what your needs are. Without my children, I think I'd rather start with like an apartment building or a condo, right? But when you have children, you might want more room. So after you find that perfect property, before you actually give all the money to this seller, you're going to get an inspection. Remember, we talked about how you need to have someone look at it and decide how, if there's anything broken or something that needs fixing, so that you can take care of that. Either they fix it before you buy it, or you reduce your price that you offer so that you can have money to fix it when you buy it. And then you close. So closing is a very important part, because it's where you now have your lawyer and all the paperwork is taken care of. Yes, Miss Stacy?
Hi, sorry to interrupt you, Miss Andrea. All right. Hi, kiddies. I know you guys are awesome savers, which is awesome. But remember, we talked about keeping your personal information to yourselves. So please, no more in the chat, okay?
Yes.
No more of your savings money in the chat for me, okay?
Yes.
But Tamara, I love what you said. She says that she saves, and that when she doesn't spend her money, her dad doubles. She says, she's saving too, and her dad doubles it on her birthday. So all the money that she saves, her dad doubles it on her birthday. That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, awesome. That's awesome. What a nice incentive.
Isn't it?
And a good way to encourage your savings. Good job. So when you close, it's making sure that everything that needed to be there, all the paperwork is all set, all the money is all set up, and that day when you close, you now get the key to your new place after everything has been signed and looked over. And then after that, you can move in. Right? So, and when you move in, now everything, because now the property, you own it, you can decide whether you want to move in and live in it or whether you want to rent it out. It depends on what your needs are, what you're going to do. And let's look at an example of what the cost it could be if you were to buy. Now, it is very possible to still buy a home or an apartment building for $100,000, but I wanted to use simple round numbers. And I don't think, when I say simple, I mean just easy round numbers. And so if you bought it for $100,000 and you lived in Toronto or Canada, in general, the government will allow you to put down as little as 5%, and 5% of $100,000 is $5,000. So it's not too expensive if you can find a way to buy a property that costs $100,000, because $5,000 is not a lot to save by the time you're working, and maybe you've been getting money for several years from all the savings that you put aside. I still think $5,000 is a lot. I remember with my first home, I was like, oh my gosh, that was a lot of money to save, because even if I saved $100 a month, which was a lot then, it would take me a while to get $5,000. Yes, Miss Stacy?
So just want to use the example and get the kids in the chat to tell me, Miss Andrea used a down payment of $5,000, which is, she said 5%. So tell me how much a down payment would be for 10%.
Yes, good number, good idea.
What would be the down payment for 10%? Let's see. Jaden says 10,000. Lisa says $50. EB says 10,000. Enola says 10,000. 10,000.
I'm going with a 10,000. Yeah.
1,000.
Yes, 10,000 is.
Samuel says 10. All the kiddies are saying 10, 10. Logan 10. Good job. See how this is the math that we're talking about. All the math minds on Kiddie.
And so then if you're putting down 20,000 on for 100,000, what percentage is that? I mean, if you haven't read all of my slide, right?
So if you put down $20,000, what would be, how much is that in percentage?
On 100,000.
Is that on 100,000?
2,000.
Alan, yay, Alan. Alan's the first one to type it in. He said 20%. Micah, 20. Tracy, 20, 20.
Yes.
Leith and Blake says 20. Logan, 20.
Excellent. It is 20.
They're going to be so proud.
That's right. You're awesome. Awesome mathematicians. Good job. So it's really important for you to understand, really the difference here is, if you're living in Canada, you can put as little as 5% down if you're the first time buyer only. The standard is that you put 20% down, which is the 20,000 when it's a purchase of 100,000. So if you're saving, you know what it's like to save. It's not easy because there's so many temptations. You want to buy this or have that. And so saving it takes discipline, and you have to be willing to set a goal. And just like, if you are going to buy a home someday, or your parents are trying to buy a home someday, they too are trying to save and set aside. And so to save 20,000 is a lot of money. And that's not the only amount you need. You usually need more. Yes, Miss Stacy.
Rosemary would like to know, what is the definition for deposit? Like, what is a deposit? I don't think we actually covered that.
No, we didn't. So the deposit, so these amounts that I'm showing here, when you buy a property, your perfect property, you have to give a deposit. Like, you have to show that you can come up with at least 5,000 when you qualify for the 5%, and that forms what's referred to as your deposit. So it's your amount that you're going to put into the purchase of your perfect property. If you are not a first-time buyer in Canada, then you have to come up with a 20% deposit, and that amount becomes bigger. Like in 100,000 purchase, you have to put 20,000. So it's your way of saying, this is how much I have towards buying this home. Okay. And the other term that you need to know is referred to as your closing cost. So I talked about the process, and after you've done the inspection and you're getting ready to close, because all the other things worked out well, to close, that means that you are now getting into all the signing and the legal paperwork. Well, that process costs too. So outside of the deposit of 20,000, you have to be able to show that you have money to pay the lawyers, to pay the cities and the different utility costs and associated costs with closing. And usually that amount on 100,000 is around $3,000 that you have to have extra up and above your deposit to make sure that you can have that perfect home and close and pay everyone, because everyone needs to be paid. Even, you've seen the accountant come on here before. The accountant that helps you with any part of that process will also expect to be paid. And so really important, you have to save as early as you can. And so starting now is good. So if you can find a way to work out a deal with your parents as you save, are they willing to help you get a match similar to someone else on this call? You have to find ways that maybe you can, get your 5% together. So working, saving and investing your money maybe before you go to make your first purchase, because 5% is only available to someone who's never bought. For someone who's already bought and they own for several years and they want to go and buy another home, they have to put 20% down. Okay, and so any questions, Ms. Stacy, about that?
Yes, Maddie would like to know, and then we have to wrap up soon. Maddie would like to know, can you buy a house if you have the money, but you have bad credit?
If you have all of the money for that house, yes, you can, and your credit is not as important. It would be challenging if you need some services for that, because usually you still have to show good credit to get insurance and good credit to get the utility companies to provide you service like hydro, like electricity and gas. So credit is still very important. I can't say that just because you have 100,000 to buy the home that it's not important, but you can buy a property without good credit. But you have to remember that the other providers that will help keep your house running, such as the lights, the gas, they want to know that you have good credit as well, because you can't pay for those things in full. Okay, so credit is very important. And so as a first-time buyer, I've already covered a lot of this. To buy your first home here at your age, as you grow old, as you get up to purchasing age, you can buy and qualify as a first-time buyer, and there's lots of incentives. The government will also help you by allowing you to put that 5% down. They'll even help you find ways, if you live in certain areas, certain regions, they'll help you with the deposit, which is huge, because if you can't save that 5,000 or 20,000 to buy that property, you can apply to some of the government programs to be eligible and get the deposit and pay it back in the future. Okay. So always start early, always save as much as you can. In order to build wealth and to build and have ownership, you do need to set money aside. So, not just having money, but having good credit. I know you've asked about credit more than once, but just as important as your income, as the money that you save, is your credit. Okay. And you may have talked about it. I don't think they've talked about it, you said, Miss Stacy, but you can also use some of the money that you've been saving for retirement or your tax-free savings account once you're an adult. You can use that to help put towards your purchase as well. So any more questions?
Yes, we have 2 questions and then we're going to wrap up with Miss
Okay.
Andrea because I got to do the closing.
Yes.
So Tracy, I'm going to try and understand your question. Tracy wants to know, can you start off with buying something that's a low price and then you can kind of go up in a higher price after that?
Excellent question. If I didn't say it already, Stacy, that is the best way to begin. You start small, and once you've figured out how to manage and do that, then you can upgrade and sell that house or rent it out and buy something else. And usually you build value in that house that you can use to finance and pay for your next purchase, because the banks and the companies you work with will allow you to do that. So that's an excellent question. I hope that helped answer it, Stacy.
I think so. Tracy, let us know if that answered your
Sure.
question. And then the kids wanted to know, what is the definition of a mortgage again?
Excellent. So yes, I don't think that's an easy term. So a mortgage is the money that you borrow to help buy that house. Because if you only have 5,000 and you have to pay 100,000, the difference that you don't have is that becomes the mortgage. It's what the bank loans you and gives you until you can pay for the property in full. Okay, so it's the difference of what you don't have to buy that perfect property. It's a
So
loan. So a mortgage is a loan to you.
perfect. I'm going to close out with Tamara's statement. She says she's thinking of saving and getting a house at 13 or 12. So you've already inspired us to already buy.
Tell her, Miss Stacy, I wanted to do it at 17. I didn't have a clue how to do it. And then I had to wait until I finished university, and I did it at 22. So if I thought about it at 17 and knew how, I would have done it. So at 12 or 13, why can't you? Talk to your parents.
Talk to your parents, right? Talk to your
They can help you.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Miss Andrea. That was super informative.
They had amazing questions.
I know you guys had some questions about what is an RSP and a TFSA. We will have another session going back to investments on another webinar for KiddieNomics, okay? Otherwise, you can watch one of our past webinars, which was savings. And that's with Miss Billie Jane Bolton, or you can watch the RESP one with Miss Billie Jane Bolton, and we talk about TFSAs, RRSPs, and RESPs. All right.
Yes.
Anyways, thank you, Miss Andrea. Can you hang on with us? We're going to wrap up really quickly, and if you could stop sharing your screen,
Okay.
and we'll wrap up. That was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. And here I've stopped sharing so that you can, back to you. Did that help? Did I stop? Yes, I stopped.
You did. Hang on though. It's me.
Oh, I see a lot of thanks there. Awesome.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to the last question that we ask on every single KiddieNomics webinar is, what would happen if kids became more financially literate? And our answer is
real change that impacts the world.
Real change that impacts the world. Because guess what? The more that you guys become financially literate, the better that you guys will be to be able to make healthier, more educated choices and decisions that will positively affect you in the long run, and being able to support you in anything that you want to be. So whether or not you're going to cure COVID or you're going to cure cancer or help save the environment, you're always going to need financial literacy skills to help you along the way, right?
Yes.
All right. So I always call you guys our young financial literacy ambassadors. But what does that mean? It means that you all are our representative. You're authorized to be our representatives and our messengers out there about KiddieNomics. That means that all of this knowledge that you have now gained on KiddieNomics, we want you guys to go out there and share it with the world. So that's why we say knowledge is our superpower, right?
Yay.
Knowledge is our superpower. And guess what? The more that you share the knowledge that you learn on KiddieNomics, really and truly, the stronger that you become and the people around you become stronger for it too. So that is real superhero stuff, right? Like that is what a superhero does. And that's what we think of you guys, okay? So go out there and share KiddieNomics, share your knowledge with your friends, your family, your community, and tell them to come join KiddieNomics too.
Yes.
Share what you learn, okay? All right, I'm going to go into the schedule for the remaining of the month, okay? So this was Miss Andrea Peart for this week. Next week, we have Dr. Jill Andrew, and I'm going to talk a little bit about her right after this slide. After that, on March 19th, we have Khadira Jackson. She's awesome. She is running for a Liberal seat in the Scarborough riding for the next MP. And we're going to talk to her about how to get involved. How do you get involved in politics? And how do you run for a political position? Because she's currently running. So this will be an amazing one. And then right after that, we have Ryan Henry on Friday, March 26th. And we're going to talk about commercial real estate. Now, we touched on that a little bit with Miss Andrea. And now we're going to talk a whole session about commercial real estate, talking about all those big buildings. How do you own them? So if you guys want to be a next real estate mogul, these are the ones that you don't want to miss, right?
Right.
All right, so next week is a special edition of KiddieNomics. It's going to be slightly different than how we currently operate KiddieNomics because we're going to do an interview style with Dr. Jill Andrew. She's the MPP for a Toronto riding, and we're going to interview her. Now, I've already sent in our interview questions. So, Ivy, I did get your question on the last KiddieNomics webinar. I did see you type it in, so I did send it in to Dr. Jill, and also Michelle. I did get your question that you emailed to me, so I did send in your question to Dr. Jill. So I just wanted to let you guys know that it's not going to be in the format that we present as you see Miss Andrea present a PowerPoint. We're just going to have a nice conversation, and we're going to talk to her about different things within politics, like what are the different levels of government and how does it affect our lives? How do you guys get involved in politics? We have a whole slew of questions, and so we're going to talk to Dr. Jill Andrews next week, and that should be super fun, right? And then on Friday, May 21st, we are going to have the awesome Marcy Ian. So some of you guys may know Marcy. She used to be the co-host of a show called The Social. It's a national syndicated show called The Social. And now Marcy is one of the first Liberal Black woman MP for Toronto riding. And so she is going to be on KiddieNomics in May 21st. And we're going to talk to her about the power of pivoting. And I really love this topic. So I'm super excited to have her on. So I did want you guys to send me your input. So if you guys have any questions ahead of time for Miss Marcy, I would love for you guys to send me an email at kiddienomics101@gmail.com, of course, with your parents' permission, or type it into the chat now because I read back the chat at the end. When we're offline, in case I missed anything. So if you do have a question, even if it's for Dr. Jill, let me type it into the chat and I'll see if we can sneak it in next week. Or if you have a question for Miss Marcy Ian, then type it into the chat also, okay? And sorry, I'm gonna just open up the chat box to see what I'm missing here. Okay, while that's loading, and there we go. And the last thing is, okay, listen, KiddieNomics, you guys, is for you. We always want your input. We want to know what it is that you guys want to learn about. So tell me, give me ideas on topics that we can cover for you. because we got 52 weeks in the year, or 52 Fridays that I need to have a KiddieNomics webinar. And I would love to know what you guys want to learn about, because guess what? This program is for you. I want you guys to learn as much as possible so that you guys have a really rock solid foundation as you get older, and you'll be able to say, no, I know all about credit, or no, I know how to buy my first house because I listened to the webinar with Miss Andrea, right? So please, you guys can always contact us on KiddieNomics101@gmail.com, but please, if you do find value in KiddieNomics, please, please, please like and follow us on
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok.
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. We are one day going to get to this TikTok video, Miss Andrea. It's been almost a year since we've had TikTok. And this has been like now like an ongoing joke of when we're going to post a TikTok video, and all the kids want to know if I've learned the renegade dance. Yeah.
Too late
Oh,
now.
Leif and Blake says the savage dance is easy. I guess what you're saying. So I guess maybe I should start with that one.
That's the only one she knows how to do.
Oh yeah, that's probably true. All right, so please, you can always message us on any of these channels. But that's it for this week. Thank you again, Miss Andrea, for presenting to us. That was awesome.
Yes, thank you for having me. It was amazing. We've got brilliant financially literate little ones already, so that's awesome.
Thank you so much. So you guys all have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye. Have a great weekend.